My name is Verdict, but a long time ago, I used to go by the name of Nex. These were times of my life that I'm not proud of at all. Please allow me to explain. Since I was just 6 years old, I had been engaging in online behavior unrestricted with full access. But that resulted in behavior that I am really disgusted with and I'm not proud of at all. And I'd like to say that I've always craved attention as a child, being isolated at home in a strict household, and I've spent most of my life in online school till now. When I was 9 years old, I stepped into a game called a condo for the first time. And a condo is basically a very inappropriate Roblox game that has no chat filter and no moderation. But for me, it felt fun because it was unrestricted and I could say or do anything I wanted. And I could swear at my friends, and I thought it was funny to hang out there. But since then, it was just a downward spiral, because for as long as I can remember, I had been going in and out of those games. I grew up using Roblox as an outlet for most of the attention that I received in my life for a long time. I'd like to say I've spent most of the hours of my life online, if not all of my childhood, and that resulted in some negative behavior and learning on my side. But it was especially one thing, which was relationships, which has always been a big problem for me. Here's an image of me from at least 4 years ago. I think I'd be around 13, 14 at the time. And in this image, this is a condo, which is basically, like I said, an unrestricted game with no filters or moderation. And anything can happen. Anyone can be great, and anything can happen at all. Growing up, I was impacted greatly by this content and behavior, and although it's painful for me to talk about, I'll bring it up. When I was in these communities, I adopted this idea that it was okay, no matter how much younger I was than anyone, that I'd be okay to talk to them or date them, or that I could gain validation or attention from anyone, no matter how old they were. And that made me do things like lying about my age, pretending to be older when I wasn't all the time. And here's an image of me where I was exposed in 2020 or 2021 when I was 13, 14. This is when I was learning from these communities, and I censored my real name in this content, but I would like to take that my behavior that I learned from the peers that were encouraging me, and I learned that, reflected that in my own behavior, gaining a newfound sexual desire to do content online, especially since I at home all day with anybody that I saw. And my behavior that was taken from these inappropriate communities or condos was prevalent in many online communities and started showing in others too. There were many relationships that I was in that were very bad, but in none of them, except for only one, which we're going to be discussing in this video, was I older. And the worst one I was in, I was, I believe, 6 years younger than the user. But I didn't care because I just wanted to engage in what I knew was wrong up until that time. Like I said, behavior was so addictive and it melted onto me. As I was growing up and learning who I wanted to be in life, all I could think of was how much fun I was having online and doing things the wrong way, as I shouldn't have done. These are some images of how I used to behave when I was 13, and it's not okay, it's weird. I would lie about my age and seek older people all the time when I was 13 or 14. Sometimes I would even speak to people if they were in their 20s when I was 13, and I didn't care. And if you look at these images, you'll notice that most of these align with the videos and images of content that you see in Tvdisko's images, which were images of what I was saying when I was 16 in his video. But as you can see, like I said, most of the content that is in the video of Disco's is still reflected in me, even when I was 13, 14, because I was learning that being offensive was okay and it was alright to talk to people like that with no repercussions or issues. And most of that behavior started when I was 12. I remember getting older and older until I was 16, where I realized I probably didn't have to lie about my age anymore, but I still craved people who were older than me. Being in relationships with people who were 20 and up, I just didn't care. Since this one staff community allowed people if they were 16 to be staff in that community, I decided to become a staff there. And when I was 16, I met a girl in that community, that I was staffing now, and her name was Wawa. I fell in love with her instantly back then because in a way, she was equally as impacted by this behavior and community as me. It was someone that I could hang out with every day because they were just as chronically online as me. There were many warning signs and risks, but I just didn't care. I thought I found someone who was just for me. At first, she told me she was the same years as me, She was 16 too, and I was so happy. I think I spent every day with her, but things got pretty strange fast. Eventually, she started bringing up topics of, which is something that I don't wish to discuss often in this video, but she would start sending content like that in my DMs, and she would constantly ask me about age, and I was so scared, but I didn't want her to leave me. I just wanted her to, keep speaking with me, hanging out with me, and loving me. And I remembered how I used to lie about my age when I was 12, and how much I seeked people who were older than me. So I guess I finally gave in, and I started saying some things like, oh yeah, I guess I look a lot sometimes, or I'd be like, oh yeah, I guess I'm kind of into age. But little did I know, the reason she was asking that is because it was the calm before the storm, because she was actually lying about her age to me too. And I was a victim of my own behavior from the past. And that's where screenshots from his video came from, like this one. The reason they're cropped is because I said, but it's like, because I felt uncomfortable talking about this topic. It's something I didn't like at all, but I wanted to indulge in talking about anything with her, even if it meant it was something weird like that. I guess my reasoning for the other thing was I lied about my age, like I said, all the time, to seek older people of my age, and used to say weird things to make her love me even more, or seem closer to her, or like relatable to her. And I was so scared of, losing the one people that I felt like actually did like me, so. The time came that Wawa told me her real age, which was 1 month into our relationship, and I was devastated because she said we had a 3-year gap, which was 13 her and 16. I was broken for a long time, and I realized that was why, she used to always bring up the topics of age with me whenever I was around her. And it was because she was testing the waters of if she could tell me about her secret, which is why she was so excited when I wasn't weirded out about saying those things. I remember feeling so wrong because this was the first time that I found out that I was talking to somebody who I was this much older than, because 3 years was the highest gap I've ever had. And looking at it, I was so scared of, being judged or hated or losing my friends. I kept looking back at myself when I was 13 or younger. And I remember how I used to lie about my age all the time, looking for people who were older just to love or be with because of how lonely and craving I was. And I remember my mind melting into this thought that the relationship was okay because I knew what I wanted was what she wanted too. And I used to be just like her. In a way, I recognized my abuse in her, and I think I wanted to take care of somebody, but I didn't want anyone to know because I knew it was weird and I knew it was a problem when I used to lie about myself too. Because everyone used to always get mad at me for lying about my age when I was younger, but we used to talk about the most crazy and offensive things, saying all those things you saw in Disco's video, but I thought it was okay because, it was all I knew after all, and I never brought up any of this behavior I had, or any content that I had, and I never tried to debunk anything until now, because I knew when I was younger or in the present at that time, I was still weird, I couldn't just be like, oh, guys, I used to engage in games like condos with her all the time, but I'm not like that anymore. Because the truth is, even when I got exposed back then, I still was. But I'm a different person now, because I've learned a lot. Back then, I felt like I was valid and that the abuse that I had was matched up to hers, and I felt like I could confide in somebody. But that progressed into me eventually stalking and becoming obsessed with her. I was obsessed with her because I knew nobody else was just as messed up or damaged like me. And I knew nobody else understood what kind of person I was. And that's where Disco's part comes into play, because going into December, I broke up with Wawa on New Year's Day. She was 14 and I was 17 at the time. And I didn't break up with her because I didn't like her or anything, or care about her anymore. But I genuinely was uncomfortable, and also my friends were starting to find out the truth of who Wawa was and what she would liked and what she was into. And that resulted with me breaking up with her on New Year's because I was starting to lose all of my friends and everyone that I cared about. Obviously she was devastated, but I was hurt too, but it was for different reasons because I lost my friends. And she obviously lost somebody that she clinged onto just like I did back then when I was her age. And as time goes by, she starts involving herself more and more with Disco's community, the guy who made the video on me, in an attempt to make me jealous basically. She would tell me about all the content he made with her, and she was also voice acting for this one character in a criminality movie that he made, where she basically got married and had a kid or something. I don't know. But that makes me enter Disco's community to figure out what's going on. And I realized I wanted to make YouTube videos too, so I started getting closer and closer with Disco. But that gets to where he finds out more about me and Wawa, and makes a video about me. And the video happened when I was 17, and has a lot of audios of me, and videos of me. But I'd like to say that in all of the audios or videos of me, I'm either 16 or 17. And that's where the Meow Meow 123 and the audios of me or ERPing or videos of me came from. It was from the time when I was a minor, and he took all the screenshots that Wawa gave him of me saying those things that I mentioned earlier, like the page stuff, and said that I was a predator. In the video, it was in a way that looked like I was actively preying or hunting down people like Wawa, but that couldn't be further from the truth. The issue is, as the time went by, I started getting banned from all communities, and I lost all my friends, even before this video Disco made. Because the issue was, before Disco made this video, I had been reported prior to a bunch of communities by his friends, like Blackout and other games I used to play in other communities, and I lost all my friends. I got banned from many games that I can think of, and I realized I had nothing left, and you know what? That made me fall even deeper into the hole of condos, to the point where I started making them myself, because I realized I had nothing left. And the problem is, Disco noticed that, and then that's why he started wanting to make a video, because he was like, okay, now he's starting to make condos himself too. This is not okay. I also started stalking Wawa everywhere, because I didn't want her to get away scot-free from everything she did to me, and how she showed everything about me. I still saw her the same, but it became an obsession. Here are some images from his video where he says that you can set your age to this age, but the truth is, if you put anything as 14 or below, it would instantly ban you in my game. Because I didn't want my community to have anyone over 14 or below, because I didn't want to be exposed anymore. I just wanted to be left alone, and I thought it was an excuse. And I really did think back then that it was okay if it was like that, if I had done it like that. And I just fell into a repeating loop of a downward spiral, like a moth that's just falling into an electric flame. Since after Disco released that video with everything he had on me, with sexual audios of when I was 16 until recently turned 17, and all those screenshots, and as well as me in the relationship with Wawa, citing that for claims that I was a predator. Shortly after the video was released, I lost all of my friends, and I deleted my own condo that I made. But here's the problem. After that video, I started talking to Wawa again, because that video did no good for me. It just made me realize that I had nothing else, and I had no one else besides for her. And it didn't make me realize my mistakes at all, or anything that I had done wrong. The truth is, Disco didn't know anything of my entire life at all, and of course I wasn't thinking about it back then. I was just thinking about the present, and how I wanted to be known again, how I missed my friends. So I started joining a new community known as TRL, which was a condo. I became an admin there for most of my 7th year, and I started gaining a hatred for condos entirely, but I was still talking to Wawa at the time. You know, I started finding ways to sabotage the condos too, and the biggest one was TRL at the time. When I was 7, I still hadn't fully distanced or walked away from them entirely. My feet were still in the water, but I had half justification. So I started backdooring or exploiting or hacking into the biggest condo there was, which was TRL. I started affiliating with Moderation for Dummies or any affiliates of people who were trying to take down condos. I don't want to name any names because in respect of their own privacy, but I will say that I had been affiliating with people that I knew that could help me take down these condos, because I knew they ruined my life, but I hadn't walked away quite yet. I started building up an obsession over Wawa, which was one of jealousy, envy, hatred, and wanting revenge. I wanted to hurt her for everything she took away from me, and I made a document about her and started stalking her even more. I got her banned from so many different communities, and I just wanted to isolate her the same way she isolated me. I know that labeled me as a stalker, and yeah, I was, but I realize now that she was a victim of abuse for most of her life. She had her own situation, but I will not be mentioning that out of common respect and courtesy for her own privacy. But in a way, she really deserved nothing that I'd been doing to her. I do feel guilty for my actions, and I hold nothing against her or anyone who was trying to expose me back then, because I wish I took their advice. And Wawa was just a hurt person. She was a victim of abuse, and she didn't know anything better back then. These days, I've left condos entirely, fully behind, and I've had therapy for all of my behavior that I indulged in, and I'm very thankful for my friends and my community who have taught me that it's not too late for me, and have put me on the path of fixing myself. I want the video that Disco made and the content of me to stay up, not to be an embarrassment to me, but to be a reminder of others of what being in those communities or condos can do to a person. And I thank people who work effortlessly to protect Roblox and, maintain it, that it's a secure community, one that I didn't have the most of, and one that I really wish I had growing up. But I've been changing to the best person that I think I can be. Before Disco reposted the video that he made about me, but relabeled under Verdict instead of Next, RAINN, we had a talk. And remember, this video is from years ago, but he reposted it 6 months ago. And he told me that he didn't see me as a predator, but that I couldn't stay in his community anymore because, they still saw me as a predator because of his video. The reason I wanted to make this video is because maybe someone from his community will see this video, or maybe some people who see his video will see this, and I don't want people to see me as someone who doesn't want to change or just doesn't care, because I am someone who does care about my actions now, and I wish every single day that I hadn't done what I did back then. I am an adult now. I left all of those communities behind at 18, and here we are now. I'm turning 19 this October. I'm very disgusted and not proud at all of my actions in the past. And I wanted to bring this up instead of just disregarding allegations or any video on me, because I don't want people to feel like I'm hiding anything. I don't have reason to hide anything anymore, because if I did have reason, that would mean I was still engaging in that behavior, and I know I'm not. Or please don't go after him or comment anything about him. The purpose of this video is only to show the reality of things and show you all that I really do take accountability and not hide my actions at all. And I want to leave all of this weird behavior that I used to have going into adulthood now, especially that I'm 18. I want to end this off by showing you a comment that I left on Disco's video when somebody said, "Gang, everything was debunked." Thank you for watching, and please contact or comment any questions or concerns on this video or in my DMs if you want to. Thank you.